Did you know that the Verkada gateway now supports IPsec VPN? In this short video, I'm going to explain how that works and, more importantly, why this is critical in case you want to send traffic from a small site into one of your main ones. So let's say you might have a couple of Verkada cameras in a remote location. You're actually using a gateway to allow them to connect to the internet. And for a reason, you might want to use RTSP and display them at your headquarters. So first of all, what is IPsec? Well, it is a technology that allows you to create a secure encrypted tunnel between two endpoints. And here we are using the internet as a method to communicate between two different sites. And as you can imagine, well, the internet in itself is not secure. Any packet that is not encrypted is visible to pretty much anyone that is looking around. Take RTSP, for example. Initially, I thought that the reason that you set the password for it is for encryption, but actually it is to authenticate both ends, and the RTSP packets themselves are actually not encrypted. The second reason we're using it is because we're trying to bridge two private networks, each with their own private IP addresses. And if you just try to route between them, well, it's not going to work because the remote site will translate an IP address into a public one, and then that has to be translated again at your main site. So you'll actually need a way to create a tunnel, to create a bridge between the gateway at the remote site and the router or a firewall that's capable of IPsec at your main one. Once the tunnel is established, logically, the gateway and the router/firewall then believe that they are connected with a direct link. And when there is traffic that needs to cross between those two sites, it will get encapsulated and sent through that particular tunnel. So how do we configure this? Wanted to note that at this particular time, this is in beta. So if you don't see this in your command, just make sure that you reach out to Verkada support. But if you have it, you'll actually see it here. First step is to make sure that the gateway local area network VLAN does not overlap with any other networks that you have in your estate. Because if it does, well, the routers will actually not know where to send the traffic. Is it here or here? It just doesn't work. And this option actually was not available before this because, well, we didn't really have a need to connect the gateway LAN with a broader network. Secondly, you'll go ahead and enable the IPsec VPN and type in either the IP address of the router or firewall you're trying to connect to or its domain name. You might think that typing out IP addresses is much easier, but if these were to change, well, you'll have to go back again and redo your configuration. And this is actually the reason why we give you the option to enable dynamic DNS. So in the same way that you will connect the gateway by using the other end's domain name on your router or firewall, you can then use another domain name so they know how to reach the gateway. Remember, all of these IP addresses might change without notice, leaving you without connectivity unless you hop in and modify your configuration. There are a couple of services here that you should be able to use. Some of them are actually free. When again, you'll register for an account, register a name, put your credentials in here. And this will actually make sure that if the gateway changes its IP address for any reason, that those records are updated, and then the router or the firewall on the other end will reconnect to the proper IP address. Next thing to do is to specify what remote networks you expect the gateway to reach, so that's on the other end, and what local networks, that's downstream of the gateway, you want to advertise to your broader estate. Now, by default, this is actually the subnet we just configured before, but remember, if you want to narrow it down and, for example, only present a particular host to your broader network, you can do so by just deleting this, plugging in the IP address and putting a /32. So you have the ability to narrow down which hosts are actually visible to your broader estate. Then you'll need to select the type of authentication. There are two options here. Pre-shared key is the easiest. in case you can easily configure both ends just to make sure that the actual key is identical, but you can also use certificates. Last but not least, I wanted to re-emphasize these values here for encryption, hash, and the Diffie-Hellman group. When the IPsec tunnel is established, there will be a negotiation between both ends, and these protocols have to match, because otherwise they will just not agree and the tunnel will not go up. On most firewalls and routers out there that support IPsec, you have a variety of options. But as we try to keep things easy in Verkada, we are presenting you with a set of fixed parameters that you need to make sure that you configure on the remote end. And that's about it. Once you configure your both ends, and obviously make sure that they are pointed in the right direction, that their parameters match, and also the pre-shared key is the same, the tunnel will go up. And this will give you the ability to easily pull data from your remote site into your main one. And the easiest way to test is obviously grabbing one of the IP addresses of the Verkada devices downstream of the gateway and pinging it from your main site.